Welcome back, listeners, to the Brighter Side of Blue, our worldwide podcast, coming to you almost live from Columbo's Cafe and Tavern in Dogtown, South St. Louis, home of the famous thin crust Cibo's Pizza, daily lunch specials. Ricky Ray's out there sporting the Cajun pasta with shrimp special right now.
As he always.
Come down daily specials. I'm
day.
Danny.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
Producer John.
Producer John in the house. People, you notice that we have a familiar face from Federal Friday sitting next to me, Joe Cronin.
Hello.
Ex-DEA agent. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you.
Joe's on because for a long time we've been hearing about the BMF, the Black Mafia family, and you guys have been threatening to do a special series, and now it's come to fruition.
Yeah.
But tell the listeners, Joe and Tommy, how and why are you guys qualified to do a special on the BMF?
Well, and like you said, we've been threatening this for a while, but we thought, maybe we'd do a show on it, maybe two. But as we started digging into it, it mushroomed into basically a who's who of the major drug dealers of our era. And our era was from about 1990 to 2008, and Joe was in DEA. I worked with Joe in DEA. We worked several of these cases together, and we know people that had something to do with the arrest of a lot of the members of BMF within St. Louis. And we started connecting the dots, and that was a pretty interesting thing, wasn't it, Joe, when we started connecting?
It was a lot of fun.
Go ahead.
So I think one of the really interesting things about the BMF, or the predecessor to the BMF, which is what we're really going to get into and how it developed here in St. Louis, is it started when I first came here. So I came here in I started on this venture when I first came here in 1996. I was transferred here right out of the academy in Virginia. St. Louis was my first duty spot, and I was a brand new young agent, never a policeman, so I knew absolutely nothing about nothing or anything, whatever.
He was a geologist.
I was. And
Rock guy. Never rock guy.
Yep.
but to digress for just a second, Joe Busso, probably one of the greatest guests you've had on here, SEAL Team 4, also loves rocks.
Okay.
And if you keep this up, I'm going to have
You bring him down, he look like a badass.
he got beat you guys up. But
Can I digress even further?
yes,
We expect it.
Coming into St. Louis to work with city police officers and being a DEA agent unknown, it takes a while for coppers to trust a federal agent.
took years.
And I don't want to blow smoke up your butt, but you were you caught on pretty quick, and people took a liking to you pretty fast.
Thank you very much.
So that's awesome.
One of the reasons I have the shirt on is obviously I'm from Chicago. Shout out to all my Chicago police friends and family. But what is really neat about it is St. Louis is just like Chicago. A lot of the Chicago policemen that I know, when I first met a bunch of you guys, treated us just the way those guys were. So it was really interesting. Sorry. So
Quit yelling at the guests.
I'm a little nervous because I'm with the professionals today.
He started his head. Danny just instructed him, goddamn.
One of the things that's really
Take
interesting.
instruction well. Come on, man.
One of the things that's really
And he
interesting.
was my boss.
One of the things that's really interesting about this case and what we're going to talk about is it was my indoctrination into these investigations, and boy, did it take off. And I'm going to tell you what, we made a million mistakes. And you're going to hear us talk about, I didn't know that.
Right.
Years later, we start to figure it out. So when I first got here, Customs, the old Customs, was running the case with the two Tommies that were just upstairs for a little reunion. The two Tommies had a bunch of information on a bunch of these guys, predecessors to what we now call the BMF. And I was a young guy, and my partner at the time, who's still on the job, I won't mention his name. He's still on the job. He's down in Dallas. And if you're listening to this, you know who you are. He comes to me, picks me up. We start to work with these guys. And immediately we knew that they had a Colombian source of supply. Unheard of in St. Louis. Even to this day, Colombians. Connected the case to the Medellin and the Cali cartels and figured out by chance who they were, which is really interesting, and couldn't even believe it. So I think when we get into some of this stuff, you're going to really hear a different perspective. We all know that the BMF and 50 Cent created those shows, I think it was called Burning Money Fast, was the documentaries or docuseries. There's a season 1 and a season 2. And then the TV show itself, which Little Meech plays Meech, so that's his son.
So let's real quick, and I needed to interrupt you because a lot of people that are probably tuning in don't know exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
With Big Meech and where everything the BMF started with two brothers out of Detroit.
Correct.
It was Terry Flannery and Demetrius Flannery, and they went by Southwest T was Terry, Meechy was Demetrius.
Correct.
And that's how they then moved to Atlanta, and we'll get into all this, and they were the two brothers that started it all. But it was and then like Joe was saying is that BMF gets 50 Cent gets involved and does a documentary on him, and then there's all kinds of beefs going on right now which we can get into. But Big Meech is beefing with 50 Cent. But Big Meech is also beefing with a guy and we're going to use nicknames today, by the way, for this particular show because we're just setting up the series. The series will be coming out every Friday, but we'll get to that later. But so Big Meech is beefing with Cuffy, who's here in St. Louis.
Was, right.
And he's in prison right now.
Correct.
Well, he believes that Big Meech set him up to get lesser time on his sentence. Well, Big Meech gets released on the Biden everybody gets out of jail thing.
Correct.
So Big Meech gets out. Well, Big Meech now Cuffy he's the St. Louis guy, and he believes that Big Meech he got out because he set Cuffy up. And we'll get into all that. We'll set it all up. But there's a treacherous gal involved in all that.
There is. I think what's fascinating about all of this story is not only when we went back and did all the research and tried to put things together, but to work it as a brand new young agent who I had no idea how to put stuff together. And you get thrown into this. We got a special office at the U.S. Attorney's Office. We got tons of funding, new computers, everything you could think of.
That was just the beginning.
That was the beginning, and that was before the BMF blew up.
Right.
And what's fascinating is I watched that show, and I actually liked the TV show on Stars. It was on Stars. It was good, but they allude to things about St. Louis. And unless you know what we know or what we did, you don't catch it. And I'm going to tell you the first one. They allude to a female in one of the episodes where Meech and Terry, they get a new source of supply, and it's a female, and they allude that it's Colombian. I stand here today and say that was not theirs. That was the St. Louis guy.
Right.
That goes by the name of Q.
Nope.
And that was one of the guys that we kind of dealt with when I first got here. And to see that on the show, and believe it or not, one of the Colombians was a female. And she was part of the family who was very involved with Q and the others, moving 500
right.
to 1,000 kilos a month.
What was the family in Colombia's name?
The last name was Suarez.
Okay.
So
That's like Smith.
yeah, it's like Smith. I will tell you that the interesting about this case is we're going to get into Q. You know,
That'll be our first episode.
Who is Q?
Who's Q is our first episode.
What's interesting
I
about
like the
it,
title right there. Who's Q? BMF.
yeah,
That's how. But that and just to get into a little bit of what they did in St. Louis, is the foundation was laid here in St. Louis for the explosion of BMF.
I believe
So
that.
BMF explodes right around late 90s, but that explosion, we're going to set up the foundation of how that explosion occurred.
And I don't think it does occur without St. Louis.
No, not the explosion.
I think the distributors here, Q's initial gang, which eventually becomes part of the BMF,
Right.
and then through the split
Cuffy,
with Terry
the Cuffy and his
and
brother.
Gucci and some others, right?
Durf and
We're only giving you little names to tease it a little bit.
Fat Cat.
But I've actually done a documentary on this, and I spoke in depth to the production company, which should be coming out maybe in the next 6 months. But I spoke about St. Louis, and I was like, listen, St. Louis is the hidden BMF. And then there's a book out there. It's an easy read. It's probably about 90 pages.
Easy
And it-
read like for JJ or easy read for normal
No,
people? Or
it's over 2
I'm the-
pages. I'm out.
Yeah, me too.
I'm the only one that reads in this.
You
Yeah.
are a reader. I shouldn't. Yeah,
It's,
you're right. I stand corrected.
It's written by the dog man, so to speak, and it gets it a little
Yep.
perspective with Wani and Cuffy and Terry Flannery. But what I think is really, really fascinating for me is the mistakes we made. And we didn't see this. And I'll be the first guy to admit it. When we were investigating Q and the others initially in 96, 97, I got here in February. I got here February 16th, 1996. But I had no idea who they were or how big they were or the
Right.
explosion of what it was. And we made some great successes on individuals, but
Throughout, yes.
missed.
And I
the
think that's what
organization.
we're going to cover is in our series is we're going to cover a lot of the individual stuff that went on here in St. Louis too that was offshoots of the BMF and because as any drug and this is a drug business, they call them organizations. This thing was run like a business. They had distribution. And
Did they have marketing?
I would imagine.
Yeah.
The BMF.
Well, the
look,
BMF
I
marketed
mean,
the BMF.
we know who the BMF is. That could be their downfall, and we'll talk about that because
Did they have human resources?
I don't know if they well, actually.
I don't think they had a-
Benefit?
If you were a nerdy straight
Actually,
guy, you could get hired there.
Hey, look. But I will say they did because they did interview people in a way. They just didn't let you into their inner circle.
Yeah, that's true.
Without some kind of and like the one guy says, he says that rich white people hang out at country clubs, rich black people hang out at strip clubs, and the same kind of deals are made in both places. Is that's where they interview their people and they see if you're down with them. But
It is a fascinating story. I think the audience is really going to enjoy it. I recommend to go watch the 50 Cent shows and documentaries. And J-Bo's got some shows out there. Jabari Hayes has one about the traffic stops.
Right. Well,
some
and
of the mistakes
Jabari
they
Hayes
made.
was one of he's from St. Louis, and he was one of the couriers. He drove around the limousine.
He's actually from New York. And
yes, and then moved
comes,
here
comes
because
here. And
he's-
maybe related to Q, which
he
is
is
kind of
he is
interesting.
related to Q.
This is going to be
Hey,
fascinating.
does 50 Cent have any concern right now? He's beefing right now.
They're beefing about, in
That treacherous gal's right in the middle of that beef
right.
too.
In the-
That's what you
in the-
said.
Currently, as we
Treacherous.
speak today,
They're
Yeah, they're
everybody's
beefing about. I don't. There's plenty of podcasters out there talking about it, but it's all about respect, right? And
They got rules.
I think that Big Meech did something with somebody else when he first got out, and it kind of got the production crew a little upset, and they pulled it and that type of thing, which is a shame, but it's also a giant mistake on the side of the BMF, and we're going to chat about some of the mistakes that they made, and when they made them, like the billboards in Detroit.
Billboards.
right.
Yeah, the billboards in Detroit. Why were you moving?
I was hitting your face to put your fucking mic in your mouth.
All right,
You
sorry.
keep turning your head, but leave your mic over here. Hey, what's up?
So one of the things we talked about in
I hear it.
the little docuseries, which was about the mistakes and about the mistakes that not only law enforcement makes, but the mistakes that they make. And they can't make any mistakes. They have to be right all the time because they give us one inkling or 1 ounce of evidence, we're on it. And, like the old days when you said flies on shit, we're on it, we're coming after it, and we can exploit it. And some of the things that they did, even in St. Louis, is they got too ingratiated in the music scene. Because what's music do? It brings attention to you.
Right.
And look what happened to John Gotti.
Just gotta say that.
Yeah, look what happened to John
That's-
Gotti, the Dapper Don, a criminal of criminals and a brilliant criminal, I'm sure. But as soon as he brings that attention to him, it brings law enforcement. And when you stick your finger in the air at law enforcement, unfortunately, there's 10,000 of them and an unlimited budget. They're eventually going to come at you and get you. And we do want to talk about some of those mistakes. But I can tell you that as a young agent, I made a ton of them and had no idea
Right.
what St. Louis, I would almost say, kick-started.
the
You know,
BMF.
Right, it
I
exploded.
think so.
Absolutely.
I think the Q gave them the initial source. I think I don't know this to be factual
Well, why
100%.
you giving up the whole first show?
I'm not going to give up the whole first show, but I'm going to throw
We're
little
gonna
hooks
cover
out
that.
there.
We're gonna cover that.
When we're going to cover it and we're going to talk about it. And then what else I want to talk about is, and I'd love any of the old guys from back in the day, if they want to call in or they want to talk or we're not doing
Just
something.
leave a message.
We're not saying something.
Leave a comment.
We'll leave a comment on the website and help us, or come down and talk, because there's a lot we want to know. We're obviously not looking to do any harm to anybody. We just want to tell the story, because I think that story, especially with Q, is fascinating. And
I think it's fascinating for it all, Joe, because they moved. Again, I spent a majority of my career investigating drugs, so I was around everybody that was investigating a lot of drugs. And these guys' names were just all the time you'd hear about them. But catching them is a different thing.
it is.
And then putting all this together, we didn't put all this together until at the very end, and we're like, oh, he was related, and then this, and then that. So when we started connecting the dots, it like Joe said, it was fascinating to know that just about. And we're going to talk about murders and some of the other stuff we did for this, to prepare for this, is we've talked to case agents, we've talked to homicide detectives, we've talked to regular detectives, and all had different dealings with because we never put it together until now anyway. So now we're going to put it together in a story that says, Jesus Christ, these guys were something else. And they were. And I've said this about, and Joe and I just personally were involved in the Spook and Bay wire.
Yep.
We were involved in the Wani wire.
Names.
We were involved in the Southwest Tees. Got arrested in North St. Louis at a gambling house where there was tons of money seized. So we're involved in it too. We're involved in every case.
Which I heard. I heard the show when they talk about it, and they. There's one of our coworkers that said they stole all the money, and he's all pissed off.
Right.
We got to
He's
get
like,
him on, which never happened. The production company
But
told
we're
me it
going
was
to have
$3 million.
those guys. We're going to have those agents on with us when we talk about certain cases. We'll have different agents on, and some of them might be from different states, so on the computer. But a lot of them are going to be in studio with us, and but we're really going to try to connect the dots and then take it back to the early '90s with Cuffy and
Absolutely.
Q and start from there. And these guys were smart. They were very smart people, and sitting on some of these wires, you realize that. And, and Cuffy didn't go to jail till 2015. So this started in 90. And he got set up like a rolling pin by that treacherous gal. And so if not for that treacherous gal, he doesn't even never get arrested. And that's how, we tried.
One of the biggest mistakes we made is we didn't communicate.
That horrible.
They
had set up in several different states, so that's tough.
It was.
It's
It was at the
tough.
time. It's a lot better now. Right. But we didn't communicate. We didn't share information, and we picked them off as individuals instead of a group. And that takes 20 years.
Right.
Well, the other thing is that, and I've said this in several other shows, is that the egos that exist amongst narcotic detectives within the game, on our side, is tremendous. Because you think you got the hot hand, and somebody
you wanna
else
be the guy.
and there's a deconfliction list that you got to put your names in. So there's a lot of people that know a guy's a drug dealer, don't have nothing else, but think he's, saw him in a nice car or something. Well, they'll put his name in deconfliction, so you have to call that person every time you get something.
Hey, when did deconfliction start?
It was while we were down there, 2000.
That
Joe?
started.
2004. That's what I thought.
Joe narcotic, yeah.
Joe Speece was our
Peace in the house was
Yes.
That was a
Sergeant
game changer because people were investigating this on small levels.
right.
Yeah.
I think the
So
other
the deconfliction. We'll have some stories about that because we had a seizure in Webster Groves that was close to $1 million. We almost.
Hey, explain what deconfliction is, because
So when you start a case on
No one's gonna
a
know that.
drug dealer or a house, you have to call a deconfliction line, or I guess now it's by computer.
It's like dig right. 1-800-DIG-RIGHT.
Exactly right.
Right.
You start digging into this organization.
Right, you start digging. But what aggressive coppers will do is if they think a guy's a dope dealer, they'll put him in there. So, and it's meant to you don't step on each other's toes.
Yeah.
But some people put it in there to like, hey man, I know this guy's they'll have to call me if they get anything good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then it becomes hey, what do you got? I don't know, what do you got? Because you'll call the person that puts their name on there and you'll ask them what they got, And they're like, well, if you're just calling me, so now it's a game between two people over a deconfliction. But
So how do you guys see this coming out? Are you going to do this on a weekly?
every Friday,
Every Friday, this is going to be part of the Federal Friday,
No.
or the
the BMF Friday. It
Okay.
will take. And then Joe, tell them why we haven't had the BMF. You mentioned it in another show, but we were going to do Federal Fridays, but and I'll have to say, our podcast is out there. So when Joe and Jack did our podcast, they were reached to by others, and they also reached out to others, and now they're involved with some production companies on getting some things. Talk a little bit about that, Joe.
So before I go into that, there's one more little
Oh,
hook
Jesus.
I want to throw in. here.
What's up, Malachek?
yeah.
Exactly. So I think one of the greatest things that we're going to talk about is the similarities between the police and the BMF. We're just going to call them the BMF, even though it's Q and all those guys. We're just going to say the BMF. The similarities with the egos, the similarities with the downfall, the similarities with the mistakes, and how they coincide, and then how we got better and how they started to self-implode. And a lot of it, I can't say.
A lot of it's luck, dude.
Law enforcement centric. It was more of some of the things that we made mistakes on with our talking and not talking deconflictions, and they would do the same type of thing. So there's some really, really cool scenarios, and I want to get into the community as well when we talk about the BMF, because a lot of people purport them to be the Robin Hoods of these communities. But we're going to get into what really happens when you flush all that money into community, but then also flush it with drugs. So you kind of build up the community for a little bit and then destroy it. And we're really going to get into that. And I think that's good. But so some of the things that happen. So the podcast has been great. It's been a great outlet for us. It's been a lot of fun. Jack and I tomorrow, I think we're meeting next week, and we're going to come up with like 5 or 6 really good, hopefully interesting things. Maybe
What happened with Netflix hit us up yesterday, wanting to get a hold of you guys. What's up with that?
So I was getting there.
Okay. I'm just letting you know.
So
We have ADHD on this set.
so one of the
I want to know
things
what happened yesterday.
one of the things that is really exciting about doing that with Jack is Jack wrote a book, and the book is called Drug Warrior. It's about his career.
I read it.
I think chapter 8
you
is
really?
the most fascinating chapter in the book.
Let me guess, you're in that.
It's called St. Louis Blues.
The Joe Cronin.
Yes, yes. And he initially starts it up a young geologist from the south side of Chicago. But
the Rockhead.
so based on that, and we've always been kind of involved with trying to get some of that stuff made, and then Jack's asked me to help in some of that. But since the podcast, some production crews have reached out for us, and we have about 6 or 7 projects in the works. One of them looks really, really good. They're coming out to St. Louis to do a sizzle reel, which is a film, like a small marketing film that's been purchased by a network. And then if that network likes the sizzle reel, they're going to buy some episodes. It's more of a reality show, but it's really, really different than like a cop show. And it's kind of like your guys' show. It brings the reality to the person, so to speak, right? So it's not just pulling cars over. It's a little bit more of it's a peek behind the curtain. Like you guys
Gotcha.
Get a little family, see what their families
you
are
guys
like,
do
stuff
that
like
every week. One of the biggest compliments I always hear about your show is it's a peek behind the curtain of what happens in
Right.
your careers. So there's that. And then we just put together something I think is absolutely fascinating about the Sinaloa cartel in Chicago, and not only more of how it started, but why they went there. Why did they go there? So there are little deals there, and then we're still.
I'm going to interrupt you on my favorite one.
Okay.
Is the our boy, the highest paid informant of DEA.
That is, we cannot say his name right now, but he is.
He's like a nationwide Huggy Bear.
Yeah.
He is. That's the beginning stages.
All right.
And then.
All right, that's enough. Let's wrap this up. We need to get going on.
He's got one more fascinating thing to talk about.
We got the one that you guys spurred to him, which
Yep.
is it looks good. It's something that we might develop. And then Jack said that if we get any money on it, we're gonna give it to you guys.
Nice.
A couple $1,000 here or there. We'll give it to you guys,
We'll buy more
unless
shots.
it's like a ton of money, and then you only get 2,000.
Hey, Joe, can I drop a spoiler?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Q, the next letter in his name is U.
I love it.
Because
I love it.
Yeah, that's hot. That's a hot clue.
That's
Hot
huge.
glue. Yeah.
Right.
You know, when I asked you guys what makes you guys qualified to have this series on the BMF. I was only being sarcastic because for those millions of you guys that are listening but not watching, Cronin sits down with a file on the BMF the size of it's like one of those legal pads, like 9 inches high. You know, you see how I did that? 9 inches high.
I like that.
Yeah,
And it's Irish green too.
it's very good. It's very.
I'm
good.
telling you, the information that we came up with, it surprised us.
How many weeks do you think this will go on?
We don't know. We're not even going to put a thing.
Yeah.
We're going to try to keep them to 20 to 25 minutes.
Nice.
You know, we're not going to, and then just keep them going because what we want is people. Like I said, we didn't connect all the dots. Now, if there's somebody out there that can help us connect
you.
the dot, you know, we're down for
And when are we starting?
it. Friday.
This Friday.
This Friday it'll be out, and the first one will be Who's Q,
All right.
and we'll tell everybody why he's so important in the whole structure of this thing, and then like we said is that a lot of the Detroit and Atlanta stuff has been documented on YouTube, and
but not the St. Louis.
St. Louis has not been documented like
bullshit.
we're going to document it.
I would say it's fascinating.
700 keys of a month.
We know you would. Well,
All right.
good. We're looking forward to that.
Let's
starting
go,
Friday.
baby.
Federal
BMF.
Fridays. BMF.
St.
Hold on.
Louis 314 BMF.
314.
Joe,
Peace.
thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys. Cheers.
And Schicker Automotive, Schicker Ford of St. Louis, is having several specials throughout their location, especially right now because the South Kings Highway location of Schicker Ford of St. Louis is having their hail sale.
Shit.
Hell yes.
Whether you have big ding or little ding, you get a
All
discount.
dings.
Yes, and then it's Ram Truck Month out in Washington, Missouri. They have huge discounts for the Ram trucks out there. And then the other one was, at all the locations, you will get employee pricing on the new cars. So
That's to the brighter side of blue.
yeah, Schicker Ford of St. Louis. Waiting, you can get a cigar, right, JJ?
Riverman Cigar.
Yep. Joe Potter.
Yep. 89 and 84 Watson Road. What did they say, Tommy? Any cigars?
I said Joe. That's his father.
Do they
It's
have-
Dan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks,
Do they
John.
have? I saw Kevin last night at the station.
All
Looking
three
good.
of them get a mention.
He's looking
I like
good.
it.
We had a good conversation, and it's kind of funny. Well, I won't get into that conversation, but I want to know. I need to ask. Do they have Cuban cigars? I'm guessing
They used to be illegal, but
I'm
now I
gonna say
think.
they
now
do.
they're legal. They're
'Cause
legal.
Ricky, do you know if Cuban cigars are legal in the country now?
They are. They are definitely legal.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Dan is the man with the
I'm gonna
band.
check it out.
I got to think he's got him.
Okay.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's got him.
Not go there and find out yourself.
Exactly. He can figure it out. I guarantee you that.
He'll get you some.
Right.
For you all watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share. No, this is our first. This is our April 2025 podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I have just two little quips of useless information.
Wait a minute.
April.
Where do you go if you want to feel better and that sort of thing?
Well, it's not the end of the show. We could have
I-
mixed that in. I mean,
No,
that's some
you
old
brought
school
it up,
stuff
so
there.
we might as
That
well
was an
go.
old school interruption. JJ used to do that all the time.
Yep.
That's okay.
That was a good one though.
I kind of miss those days.
I did.
And now that he's brought him back,
A little
let's
flashback.
bring it all the
JJ
way
interruption.
back. It's
We'll
kind of
do-
like
we'll
what
do-
you do at Prime Performance. It's kind of when you kind of your stuff's not at the right levels.
Your stuff's not at the right levels.
Right. JJ had went away from the interruptions.
Right.
He needs to get them interruptions back, just like some people need to get that, that
B12
zest
shot.
back in their life. Yeah, exactly. And they got, Prime Performance has testosterone therapy and hormone therapy and vitamin injections, medical weight loss, IV therapy, and peptides.
That's good. You know who doesn't need any performance?
Who's that?
Paige Spears.
No,
that?
he doesn't need any of that.
He's been in prison for 37 years. I think he's performing just fine right now.
That's what he's told us.
You're making assumptions.
That's because we haven't. That's why we haven't heard from him.
We tried to get a hold
He
of
hasn't
him.
left the house since.
Oh my God.
That's wrong.
He's got the phone off the hook.
Hey, JJ, where can you go if you want to get some consultation
You
from
can,
Prime
well, you can go to
Performance?
Fenton, 44 Fenton Plaza in Fenton, Missouri. At the old, up there at Gravway Park, or Gravway Bluffs, I mean.
Bluffs.
Grab Bluffs.
Park.
Yeah, and then you
Same-
can go
not
to-
the same thing.
Yeah, no, you're right. And you can go to Illinois, O'Fallon, Illinois, 122 Central Plaza Drive.
Yep. Or you can go to their website at primeperformancestl.com.
There you go. That's
You
easy.
guys are genius. Now I don't remember what I was going to say.
Well,
April.
You got April
Some
facts.
stupid-
Little
I know
known
you got
fact.
Well,
something stupid
I know
you're
you
going to
got some
say?
silly
but-
no, it
shit
is
about
kind of
April.
stupid, but I think producer John will like this first one because the Romans were always
Fucking with the calendar.
exactly, precisely, because April used to be the second month of the year,
Say
Really?
what?
and then here they come, and
Julius and
Julius says
fuck
adds
with-
January and February, and March was always the third, and they move April down to the fourth. And what was Julius always messing with the calendar for?
Did you notice at the end of the calendar that they're off too? Like December is for Deca. Deca is 10. November is I forget the
9.
exact right. And then October is 10. October is 8. Octo.
Yeah,
8.
Right?
So why are they October?
Yeah, what are they doing?
Month of
What
the
are-
season?
He's avoiding somebody.
I think Julius Caesar and who's Gregorian.
He was just showing his power. He was in charge. He could do what he wanted.
he controls the whole
Right.
calendar.
They were switching days because one guy had more days than the other. I heard.
It really messed up the baseball schedule too,
How's that?
because April went to the second month. It just
It would have been too cold. That's why he did it. He knew baseball was going to be invented. It's too cold to play baseball in
wasn't
February.
committed to the month. It was committed to the name of the month.
I don't know. I'll
April's-
look into it.
Thank you. April's named after the Greek god of love,
That
Aphrodite.
was Eros.
Aphrodite.
Is that Aphrodite?
Yeah, wasn't there a band, Aphrodite's Child?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were a Greek band.
I'll tell you. You want a
They
quick
were.
story about
They
Aphrodite?
were a Greek band. Did
Yeah.
they sing in Greek?
No,
gotta-
they sang in English.
Oh, but they were a
But-
Greek band. Seriously,
But Grand Funk was an American band.
Grand Funk Railroad.
Grand Funk Railroad.
JJ, you remember the Snaps game?
Yes.
So the Snaps game, and for people that don't know, the Snaps game is
Well, one
We
of
had
the
a-
Kings is over there, Joe
And
Speed.
Joe
Right.
Spees
And
was
then Joe and I were doing the Snaps game one time, and the Snaps games is you snap your fingers for vowels and whatever you
Don't
say.
give it away.
There's no way he's going to be able to articulate.
Right, right.
Google ruined it. Google
Oh, it did?
ruined our game.
Oh.
I can't
So
believe
now
that.
you can just say this, and then if you say snaps, whatever it was, but there was and me and Joe were very good at it.
I got good
And
at
Mark
it, too.
Thompson gave us Aphrodite's Child, and I told Joe this is a band, and I snapped one time and said 3 things, and we got Aphrodite's Child. And Mark Thompson said, "Fuck you, motherfucker!"
Their big song was the Four Horsemen.
Right.
It's a Casey classic.
All right.
Yes,
Wow.
it is.
Yeah.
He's a music expert.
Yeah, Chief Spees was a master at the Snaps game. Look
So
it up.
was he.
Uh,
So
yeah.
Speaking of that, speaking of the Spees family, you got an update on
Nathan?
On
Nathan?
Nathan?
Not really. I mean, I heard.
Good talk.
No, I did. Amazingly, I did run into Michelle Bagwell from the foundation at the soccer game Sunday, and she said she just came from a function, and I don't remember what function, but he actually made an appearance on crutches,
Wow.
I think. But
Can
he
you
made an
imagine that?
appearance.
I mean, that's just. I mean, that dude is just
A week
tough.
ago, he lost his
Right.
portion of his leg, and now he's showing up at
Some
fundraiser
function, right?
events.
Or whatever.
You know, I
it was,
know
yeah.
they're still pushing to get him into a military facility. Hopefully that'll take place in the next week, maybe hopefully a couple days. But no, that like we said on the last one or the last podcast, is it'll be, hopefully it'll be an interesting journey that we can cover with him as he comes back to the police department.
Well, hopefully next show we'll have more answers about that.
Yep.
You know, law enforcement, thanks mostly to our podcast and maybe an election, but law enforcement across the world is making a huge, huge comeback. Both how people in the community feels about them, the appreciation level, and just the respect is coming back. Here's a little stat I read the other day. 2 years ago, applications for the FBI were at like
I just saw
2,500. 2,500. Yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, is at 5,700 applications to join the FBI. And then I saw the promo video for recruiting. It's nothing like a promo video that we would have seen for the FBI when we were all policemen,
Really?
Ricky. I mean, It was real police work. It was go and get them, catch bad guys. So they're talking about their communication and their coordination with local law enforcement, rehabilitating those relationships, because I can sit here right now and we didn't appreciate the FBI when I was on the job. We want to stay as far away
Actually,
as
there was some
we
good.
could.
There was some good.
There was
agents.
some
Of
good
course,
one.
there were some good agents.
But we
Of
were
course,
so- but we
of
were-
course there were some good agents.
But as a
Yeah,
whole,
yeah. I'm not throwing some blanket over the FBI. Of course, there were 6 good agents.
Well, it's kind of like just the whole evolution of law enforcement. But we were taught that the FBI was out there to investigate us,
Yeah.
you know, and probably at a point it was, but the FBI is back to being a proactive
Law enforcement.
agency.
Yeah.
locking people up.
And it
David.
starts in D.C. You know, the Attorney General all the way down. People want to do they want to do law enforcement. They want to go out and put bad people in prison, and you can do that again.
You can do it again.
It's the next generation.
And they said
Okay.
on
Lock-
the thing.
It's okay to lock people up.
Right.
Yeah. It's well, it was funny. I'll lose my train of thought first, but they're saying that the recruitment's up so well because you trust the leadership. Now you know I can go and catch bad guys, and I can balls to the wall, do it the right way, and I have support all the way up the chain. And so I just think that
Well, that's it, and that's why all of us were, and I'll put Ricky Ray in that category too, and Joe Spees, Patrick Welsh, everybody who's here, Mike Mueller, we knew that if you're doing good, hard-nosed police work, you were covered, and if something, hey, somebody ran, you had to chase them, somebody got hurt, whatever, your bosses would back you, and the circuit attorney would back you. And even if the press didn't back you, you were covered, and nothing was going to happen. But when people lost that confidence that because for a while there it was like we just said, put the cop in jail. He was just doing his job. JJ,
I was just going to say, all those federal agents, ATF, DEA, and they come in these cities like Joe Cronin we talked to. They can't do nothing until they get a relationship with the local police departments, because we know the ins and outs, who the bad guys are, and they live off of us. And I, as a commander, I went to DEA to a commander school for 2 weeks. It was great, and every instructor that came in says we couldn't do our job if it wasn't for these new local police officers, and they couldn't. And they got to come in, and it's kind of a tough job for them, because Jimmy Long, I talked to him years ago when he went to Chicago. He said, man, these Chicago guys are tough. They don't trust me. They think I'm out to get them. He says, you got to really work it out. And it takes a while to develop that relationship with the feds. And once they trust you and they know that you're not after them, it becomes a great union. And one of our best, Joe Cronin, one of the best guys we know, he came in and got to be friends with everybody and spent a lot of time in this bar after hours hanging out with us.
And Jack Riley, how many times did he talk about that?
Oh, yeah,
They
that's
couldn't
it.
do
I
one
mean,
thing without local law
100%.
enforcement. So it's coming back. It's coming back around.
Good sign.
It's coming back around,
Yes.
and I give credit to our podcast for the whole thing.
I get it.
no doubt, Dan.
Thank you.
And we did it.
Yeah.
And
But
we
I mean,
did it. Hey,
so-
congratulations.
Thank you. So,
Congratulations.
but as we sit here and pump up the how the respect for law enforcement's transitioning to a place of respect, we still do have policemen and police chiefs that have literally lost their minds.
Dude, Chief
What's his
Farley
name?
here. Chief Farley, he's from somewhere in New Jersey.
That's-
Farley,
just
that's
a
an
great
unfortunate
name. That's a
name.
great name,
Chief
dude.
Farley.
Chief Farley, because I think there was a Farley in Super Troopers, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And then there's Chris Farley.
Chris Farley.
And then there's this police chief.
So if your name is
Chief
Farley, then you're
So he
a
was.
goofball.
He did not have a grasp on humor whatsoever. He had no grasp on humor, but he was a prankster.
And he's a chief of police, a prankster.
Well,
Zero
They
class.
didn't say when these stupid pranks happen.
Oh.
So there's a good chance he was a bad prankster from the get-go. Which is, you know how it is in police departments. And this is, like I said, here he's been accused of shitting on the floor.
Why is that a prank?
That's not even funny. I don't know what that putting
In the police station?
Here's a couple other ways. This guy, we did a show on this with Vince Stalin and how and the stories he told were funny. This guy had no grasp on funny. He put ink, like the pen ink, on the door handle. How is that funny? That's
So
not
how
funny.
big is this
Horrible.
department? Do you know?
I don't know. I didn't.
Because, I
yeah.
mean,
It's probably
But he's
zero
been on
now.
Right. I mean,
But he's been on the police department for 26 years. And this
how did
guy's
he
now
become
chief.
dude. That's
So why
crazy.
is this news now? What's going on?
Oh,
Because
they've had enough of them. And there's lawsuits kicking. At one point, he went over a guy's desk and he started shaving his arm hair on the guy's desk.
that's crazy.
He had another one where he chased somebody around with a hypodermic needle and ended up like tripping and sticking the officer in the penis with the hypodermic needle. Dude, I'm telling you.
Are you serious?
I said it, I'm telling you, I wrote a little gig on it on Facebook. That would have gotten you shot by probably in our era.
Well, it should get him fired.
In our era.
That's a fireable offense.
In
right
our
there.
era,
He should have been fired.
fireable.
Well,
He would have
yeah.
been shot. I'm
just
telling you,
saying.
you start chasing some of them guys around we know
Right.
from the old days in the police department, you chase them around with a hypodermic needle as a joke, they will shoot you for serious. You can joke all you want. And he had, and at one point he just, like in a public area, he just dropped his drawers and just said, "You never thought it was this big, did you?" I mean, that's just,
He's crazy. That's just nuts.
He's got it. He's got something.
got
wrong.
but like I
issues.
said, these are just a few of them. I mean, he's got, and then all on top of it, he's got one of them reportedly alleged. This is all alleged until
That's
it's
the
proven
key
in court.
word.
Let's just
Right.
key the.
Allegedly.
guilty.
But you know how it is when way too many people say the same kind of shit that's way off the chain.
Yeah.
That shit becomes pretty much that might be allegedly true.
Yeah.
So one of the things is that he's also accused of having a fly off the handle temperament, where he's ripped TVs off the wall and shit.
Jesus.
This guy's got to be a treat. I mean, an absolute treat to work around.
It's North Bergen, New Jersey, is where he's a chief.
North Bergen,
Chief,
New Jersey.
What's Farley's first name?
Chris?
No, he's not as funny as Chris.
No, he's not. He was funny.
Robert Farley.
Bob.
Farley.
We'll go with Bob.
You know, I
There's
don't
no way he
understand.
goes by Robert pulling that bullshit. He goes by
how
Bob.
do you become the chief of police? You're supposed to have respect and you got to be professional. I mean, that's
disgusting.
well, like
It
I
is.
said,
It's
though,
terrible.
is that, and even Vince Stalin, he was funny with it, but everybody knew that he was a jokester.
Right.
Right.
That's hard to get promoted. I mean, I'm just telling
Hey,
you, it's hard
Vince
to get
never got
promoted.
promoted.
Right. It's hard.
He probably didn't try though.
And then the more, and that's part of it too, but the more you do like that is if you do stupid shit in the police department, you are known for
that.
doing
For that.
stupid
For
shit.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's why
And
I
then
didn't.
when you do a lot of stupid shit, they'll fire you. They'll at least try to fire you. You know,
That's why I didn't take producer John's bait on dressing like Abraham Lincoln for the promotion test.
I think
wasn't
that, I still think that might have worked. But Chief
Chief
Farley-
Moka said he would have promoted me.
Chief Farley would have
No,
definitely
there's
promoted
no
you.
way.
No, he would.
Not
You
Moka.
hear me?
No. Yeah,
Chief
Chief
Farley, he would have been down for that.
Oh, that's,
He's like me and Abe can go stick people.
he's
with
got some
hypodermic
mental
needles.
issues though. That's just not.
That's pretty sick. He's got to be fired. So, Tommy, what are we doing? Because Check's at the Blues game.
So we're gonna leave it for a minute. But here's the
Teaser. You have a teaser, don't
here's
you?
a teaser. He went to St. Cecilia's
Okay.
and he ran in to mayor, the most unpopular mayor in the world.
Brandon Johnson.
Yep.
6.6% approval rating.
He was at St. Cecilia's fish fry.
No way.
Did Check get an interview?
Tashara.
Did Check get an interview?
He didn't think quick enough. I was like, "Did you get an interview?" We would have lied. He's like, "I didn't even think about it," but he did give us pictures of the food that he eats or ate.
So when's he going to give us? He'll give us a double again.
Right. But what was neat though is I just looked at some of the pictures and I had no idea. I've been out of the city for quite some time, and St. Cecilia's has been rejuvenated by the Hispanic community.
Oh yeah.
And Czech said if it wasn't for the Hispanic community, that community wouldn't even exist. And they do neat little things with their fish fry where they have fish, but they have like spicy beans and rice.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah, me too.
Tostadas, little non-beef tacos on the side.
That's cool.
And they also dress up in garb and do dances in the thing. And
That's pretty
Jack's got a pic of his little granddaughter in the line with these people that are doing. So it's quite the show.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
But anyway, that he also saw, obviously with Brandon Johnson was Tashar Jones, and then later in the days or later in the meal, he saw Kara Spencer. So now check
Wow.
he's right.
No,
he's
he's
right in the
politicking with
middle,
all.
baby.
Yeah.
Wow.
He can do fish fry and politics on the same.
That's
the
his
same.
job.
Yeah. Wow. He missed an opportunity there. You know how it's March Madness going on, and
Uh-oh.
and one of the most every one of us played high level sports, very high level, extremely high level. But these interviews with a coach, especially the illusion coach, coming off the halftime and the reporter.
Yeah.
Hey, coach, you're down 36. What can you do? Czech could have went up to Brandon and said, hey, listen, Mayor Johnson, you're at that 6.6 approval rating. So, hey, looking forward, how do you get to the 7? How do you break the
Right.
barrier? How do you get to 7?
7. It's like hitting a $130.
Yeah.
You're like, hey man, I need to get to a $150.
Yeah, how do you do it? Listen, Mayor Johnson, how do you think you do it?
We all need to train on that. Is just to get our phones right out and get people's face. Hey,
Hey,
it's Brandon
tell us.
Johnson. Hey, it's
Tommy
from
Sawyer with Brighter Side of Blue. How you going to break that 7% approval rating? You can do it. Stay focused, buddy.
He's thinking he's not going up. He's going down.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he was thinking. But anyway, so we're looking forward to hearing.
You know what the other one that
Yeah.
got me this week?
Well-
We're going to play this video real quick.
I know where you're going.
We're going to play this video real quick. And this is a pastor, Pastor Sapp. S-A-P-P. And Pastor Sapp, he was not happy at all with the
Congregation.
with their contributions.
Yes.
He loves his congregation, but he was not down with their contributions.
Okay.
And here's what
He did.
here's what our Pastor Sapp. Here's was his idea of fixing this. All right, there you go.
Oh my God.
There you go. Lock the doors.
I did see that.
Lock the doors. We're getting some money up in here.
Flat out.
I was there.
Did you give $20?
I gave 100. I was thirsty.
So I did watch that. He held the entire congregation kidnapped hostage until they gave $20 and lined up in front of him, put
Lock
him in
the
the bucket.
doors.
I hope.
But
he's-
did you read
he's
any of the
done.
comments? Did you see the video? Other than that, the comments were unbelievable. There were like thousands of comments, and not one of them were in the pastor's favor.
Right.
They were ripping on him. Said, "I'm 6'9". Let him try. I'm getting out that door."
It was there was a skit on In Living Color, and if I can find it, I'll put it on there right now. But there was a skit where Damon Wayans,
I love
they
him.
got the
so
hat,
funny.
and he only had $1 in it. And he comes out with a gun. He goes, "We tried this. We tried
Nice
this the
way.
right way, but
Wait a minute, hold on. This ain't working. $1. What's this? $1. No, we tried to do it the Lord's way. Now we're going to do it the good old 125th Street 7th Avenue way. Give up the money now. Pay the Lord.
You wanted heaven, now reach for it.
And they came out with some guns and whatnot. And Jim Carrey was in the skit, but that was some funny stuff.
I mean, he flat out said, lock the doors until
Right.
you, and
And
nobody's
the ushers
leaving.
probably looked at him like, say what?
Yeah.
I said,
Well, and then he turned to the people on the stage or altar
He
and
want
said,
100 from that.
"You guys giving 100."
Yeah.
So he said, "Put your 20s away. You're giving 100."
He had a goal. He set himself a goal for how much money?
40,000. 40,000.
Is he in the same city as Chief Farley?
they make a good team.
Yeah.
They
He's
would
the
make a
pastor
good
of the Chief
team.
Farley
And then Chief Farley would go out there and beat the piss out
police
of people.
department, and then Mayor Brandon Johnson will pardon him.
My God.
Chief Farley and Pastor Snap.
Unreal.
I'd move to Brazil.
What the heck is going
Can you
on?
imagine those two being in the same community?
No,
There'd be
no,
some shit happening there.
no, that's unbelievable. So, last show, and I'm supposed to be nice to JJ, and I will.
Oh, shit.
No, but last show, and every show he gives a JJ Zen, and everybody looks forward to it. We have 59 million people look forward to your Zen,
I don't believe that, but
and last week,
I'm trying to.
your
Can you tell I'm trying to?
your
wean out of
Zen
that
was
whole-
just a violent blurb of
Wasn't that violent?
anger.
It was more of a message to stalkers.
Yeah, but that's not Zenish.
No, it wasn't. I didn't even claim it to be Zenish. If you watch,
What's JJ's Zen segment?
well,
I think we should go to JJ's rant.
Yeah,
think
well,
we
no,
should
we can
change-
add a new
we
segment.
could change the
I think
rant.
we should
JJ's
change it to
temper
the
tantrum.
JJ's rant. Today,
I can do
is-
Zen.
it
I can
could
do
be-
Zen.
we're not-
What do you
we're
want?
gonna-
A rant or a Zen? Can I can give both?
Zen.
Right now?
It's JJ's Zen.
hey,
All right.
but JJ, I think as a show, we have to discuss that we may transition
At any time.
to the
rant.
JJ rant.
Well, I have a
I
rant.
think-
I got a rant too. Can I do both?
Yeah,
Dude,
hell
absolutely.
yeah.
Let's- and then everybody
beautiful.
can leave a comment. Which one you want more?
Yeah.
The JJ
JJ's
rant?
Zen or JJ's rant?
My rant is
Okay.
55 northbound traffic. The construction is going
Uh-oh.
on. We talked about it. I'm mad about it.
3 years.
Yes, 3 years. Well, I got a phone call yesterday out of the blue from Mikey Mueller. Says, I got information that the highway will be fixed it'll be done, construction will be done by May or early June.
Okay.
Of
Which year?
This year. I
Okay.
call bull crap. There's no way. I mean, I did see workers like 2 days ago, so I'm like, well, that's a start. But there's no way it's going to be done.
There's a lot of lanes
There's
closed.
no way this May in June. If it
There's
is,
a lot
I'll
of
get on
lanes
the
closed.
podcast and say
Good job.
they did
actually,
it.
that was a tame rant.
That was
well,
kind of an
okay.
opinion.
But that was a
Well,
tame
there's
rant.
the
I think
rant
it's-
is
I
there's
think
no
it's building up,
effing
though.
way that they're going to be done by May, early June.
Yeah,
Right.
You're calling
anyway.
bullshit.
I'm calling BS. Right.
Okay.
Kind of like the weather people.
All right.
Now let's go to this
They
Zen. Let's
missed.
take a deep breath. I wish we had our old school music.
Yeah, we got to find it again.
Yeah, we do. I can't
Right.
get in the same group.
Hey, that's what's happening. He doesn't get in the mood without the Zen music.
Okay.
A good friend will always stab you
Jeopardy.
in the front.
I like it.
That's what we do to each other, right?
Exactly.
That friends who often playfully insult each other are 300% more honest and loyal. Research shows that we should all absolutely relentlessly roast our friends. Contrary to popular belief, psychologists believe that friends who grill each other with frequent, good-natured jokes might have stronger friendships after all.
There you go. Perfect.
That video was perfect, right? Right.
That was awesome and appropriate.
That was.
So
and that's
repeat it again,
statistics.
JJ. That was very
a good friend will always stab you in the front. And
Yeah.
that's us.
Who-
Yeah,
it
was-
is us. Who
we
gave
are
that to
some
you?
Front stabbing mofos.
Denise.
What?
What?
Your wife, she sent it to me.
Did she really?
You didn't get it? Dude, I got that right away.
Put the
What's
bulb,
up, dude?
Put the light
Yeah,
above
put
head.
the light bulb. Let's do the light bulb thing again.
You
No.
have to leave it on because I still don't get it.
It was some 18th century poet guy named Oscar Wilde.
Oscar
Irish.
Wilde.
He was from Ireland, Dublin.
Oscar. And I think he's got an E on the end of Wild.
He
I
does.
like that Zen.
You do?
It was more Zenish. It's talking about good friends and razzing you.
Right.
They do it to your face. They don't wait till you go
don't-
and
they
say,
don't
"Boy,
do
that
it.
JJ can't read."
Like when I leave early, you guys like, JJ.
The other thing is that you always think about, oh man, are
No,
they
I think
talking
it was-
about me?
I think
once
last
you
week-
leave our little whatever we're doing, nobody's talking about you.
No,
You're gone.
No, listen. I think I'm leaving here like last week. You're like, no more Jameson for JJ. Seriously, did that happen?
The whole world said that.
About the whole podcast.
And the good thing is,
Colombo even
I
texted us.
I'm
Yes.
not doing anymore.
Greg Colombo's like, hey man, I think
yeah.
you might want to, Mr. Giggles over there. You may want to
Settle
limit
down
the.
over there. Yeah. Producer John,
Yes.
you've been without a newsroom.com for a couple episodes. Are you in a position now, or
I think so.
All right,
good?
look at this.
I'm back.
Come on, now.
And this is kind of a story and also a personal experience, and I think everybody at this table can chime in on this. Is I went to the eye doctor the other day, and somebody walked in when I was checking in and stood next to me, and I looked over, and it was John Reinberg. John Reinberg is the owner of Greg's Bar and Grill, 4400 North Broadway.
All right.
Is that still open?
No, he closed it and he sold it, and I think it's either back open or it's in the process of getting back
Gotcha.
open. But John was always a great friend of the police department. Greg's was like a little oasis up there at North Broadway and East Grand, basically, and they opened up in the 70s. That particular establishment was a saloon since like 1874.
Wow.
In one form or another. But for anybody who's listening, who's a St. Louis police officer, and probably a lot of other people, that was a great, just like homey place up. In that area, which is completely industrial.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Comfort food and
Yeah,
good
The
fish.
5th District, every person that ever worked 5th District ate at Greg's.
100%.
Every
and
single
if
person.
you're in Mobile or
A lot of,
any
good,
those-
lot
You
of
always went there,
construction.
too.
Right.
The
My
detectives.
neighbor's one of my best buddies.
Yep.
He
Yeah.
owned Sachs Brothers.
Yeah.
And they would go there like whatever day they'd go once a week. They'd go there.
Yeah, and even after I retired, and Dan and we probably all been up there just because it's such a neat place and so comfortable, and the food is fantastic.
How about the fried fish on?
Yeah.
Speaking of
Lentil.
Mr. Malachek thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
On Fridays during
Yeah.
Lent, they had every
every day
Friday.
they had a lot of seafood on
And
there.
they had some tremendous fried fish.
They used to catch it down the street in the Mississippi River.
No, they
Fried
didn't.
catfish.
Right.
No, but Riverfront Times did an article 5 or 6 years ago, but I'll just read a little blurb of it about their description of Greg's. This is a realm of beer and burgers, of generous fish sandwiches and perfect onion rings. It's a place that attracts diverse characters and old friends, everyone from cops to construction workers to nearby neighborhood residents. That sums it up perfectly.
That is great.
100%.
You said that there's
Ricky,
somebody's
you never went
reopening
to
it?
Greg's?
Somebody's going to reopen it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's a place called Showtime that's going in there. And I
I don't like the name.
I don't
No,
like
neither.
the name either. I'm not a fan of the name Showtime.
I don't know.
I think of stripper
Right.
poles and
So if they're listening to this podcast, just go ahead and hurry up and change the name.
and it was genuine. Our first reaction.
Yeah.
No, we weren't down with the Showtime deal.
And that might just be the name their
Company,
Tinkering
corporate
companies
name.
on it. Maybe, yeah, right.
Maybe the name of the business is different, but online it said it was a breakfast and brunch place.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Which is good, just because down there there's so many businesses that people normally just go home at 5 o'clock anymore.
Do you know when it's going to reopen?
I do not.
Because if I'm still a policeman, I'm going to go. I love brunch, dude.
yeah.
Brunch is that is a tight meal.
Yes,
Brunch is one of the better meals that you can have.
100%.
Not a bruncher.
You're
You're
not?
not a brunch?
Oh, come on.
Dude,
No.
pickleball and no brunch.
That's
No.
He sucks.
I don't know, man. Yeah, you might get fired. For your printing needs, you just go down to Marvell Printing, St. Louis, Missouri, 1928 South Broadway, 314-231-1477, marvelprinting.com, and that any kind of printing you need, whether it's from business cards to posters to whatever printing you need for your business, done at a very competitive price, and they are a union-run shop, which puts
Very
them
nice.
ahead of everybody else, right?
Very nice.
Good people, great people.
Tommy,
Pop it.
Joe Cronin, and you really have something going with this BMF. That's going to be incredible.
It'll be fun. We've done a lot of, like I said, a lot of research. You heard that.
It's going to be going. Yeah,
It'll
and
be
that
fun. It'll be really
BMF is going to be, your little segment is going to be sponsored by Fairway Automotive. We had a great opportunity, didn't we, JJ, to meet Jason Gallahue from the owner of Fairway Automotive. Him and his beautiful bride, Lindsay, are the founders of that. They're having their 10-year anniversary. And we had a good opportunity to meet them.
And it was
Great
a fun
guy.
conversation, and we're just going to play that right now and enjoy that because it's
new
not
sponsor.
just a sponsorship, but we
It's a
had some
friendship.
fun on there.
Okay, we're here with our latest victim. I mean, our newest sponsor, Jason Gallahue from Fairway Automotive. Welcome, Jason.
Well, thanks for having me, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for coming on as a sponsor. It's pretty neat how we met. We met on the competitive pickleball courts. Jason owns Fairway Automotive.
Excuse me.
What's wrong?
I said something in my throat.
Okay, all right. He owns Fairway Automotive, and he fixes cars for the entire pickleball community, just about. That's how you met a lot of your clients, isn't it?
Come on, be serious. I'm not. Did you really meet him on the pickleball court? Be honest.
Yes, and we'll start with you. Dan embellishes
Bezeled,
quite a
right?
bit.
Bezels.
Embezzles, yeah, embezzles.
Not
and
yet.
embellishes.
That's what he's doing right now with you, brother. You're not getting any return on this. I can tell you that right now.
Oh no.
Right.
No.
He worked out a deal
No,
with
we
us,
did.
and he's just keeping it.
We did meet on the pickleball courts, but then, like, he has Fairway Automotive has what do you call those cars when you loaner cars? You look on the pickleball at the Carondelet Park. There's loaner cars all over the place because people take their cars to Fairway and then they get a loaner car and come play pickleball with Jason.
Wow.
It's fun. It's very good. How is there that you have 4 locations and you're growing? And when you drive around St. Louis, there seems like there's a auto repair shop on every corner that has gone away, but yet you're growing.
Part of it is because those auto repair owners that are going away are the old man that back in the 60s and 70s opened his own shop, and now he's getting to the point where he just goes out and he retires. So a lot of that, unfortunately, is those older men that have a lot of knowledge
Yep.
that are kind of just retiring. You're close there.
I know I am retired. I couldn't keep up with all the certifications you guys have to have for these new cars.
So a little about me is I've never been a mechanic, never
Yeah.
been a technician. I always worked up front. So I really respect what technicians do. Like those guys have to be mechanical engineers, civil engineers. They have to understand thermodynamics and hydros, and like what they have to do for a living really gets taken for granted by a lot of people. So
Wow.
I got
Right.
I got a question for that.
Sure.
Every year it seems like we get more technical.
Oh yeah.
And so how do they keep up on all the changes in these cars? Because they're way different than they were 5 years ago.
They are, and so we have a classic car and hot rod shop also. So we work on everything from Model A's to Teslas.
Really? That's cool.
And to be the kind of tech that knows how to work on everything like that, like those guys are geniuses. They're smart. So they get paid very well. They have 401k. They have insurance.
For your Fairway?
Yeah, we're like a real business, Dan.
Holy cow. Power tools and everything?
Yeah, we even have lights and electricity.
This is crazy. This is crazy. That's good. You know, but you say it's because the old men are hanging up and not doing anymore. I'm going to say it's because my car has been to your shop several times. It's the customer service, but on the wall, kind of like when you're at the police academy, Tom, they have the core values of the police department,
Right.
Leadership, fairness to all, ethics. You walk into the Fairway Automotive, and on there is the core values of Fairway Automotive, and
That's cool.
it's pretty cool. It's speed, ethics, empathy, quality, teamwork, and something we all like is have fun. But everybody seems so happy there. They have a little popcorn machine. You get free popcorn while you're waiting.
It's not supposed to be free.
Well, Jason, one of those ethics
I owe you $5.
one of the ethics that caught my attention was the empathy. Because not everybody. Some people are just down on their luck at times, right? And all of a sudden their car breaks down, and then your guys got to step in. And that empathy, because people can come in there and probably be somewhat irritated.
And we don't. I'm pretty lucky with the guys I have, so we don't really experience that a ton. A lot of it is the communication. I tell my guys, literally, you have to have empathy. Put yourself in the customer's perspective.
Yeah.
They don't like. You can't have a waiting room with hot rod magazines and half naked calendars of dudes.
Oh,
Those are the good old days.
So you have to have a waiting room that looks like a coffee shop. Like
Okay.
you have to. It has to be inviting to women. Probably 70% of our customer base is women.
really?
Because women make most of the car repair decisions nowadays. They're the ones taking it in. So, and we market to women. Women customers are much easier. No offense to you fellows, but guys come in.
We
and
think we
they
know
say,
something.
I can do this. I can get the part here. If I had a lift, if I had a garage, if I had the tools, if I had a wife. You ain't got none of that shit. Give me your wife's phone number. The wife comes in and says, my husband's been dealing with this for a month. Can you please take care of it? Tell me how much it's going to cost. Be fair, be honest, and have it just do what you say you're going to do. It's going to be done by 3. It's got to be done by 3. Like you talked about the loaner cars. What sucks worse than having to spend money on your car?
Yeah.
What else? Can you think of anything else that you would like to spend money on less?
It's
other
like
than
when you
your
walk
car?
around, hey, dude, did you see my new brakes?
You're right.
Yeah.
Ooh, my
Oh,
check
yeah, those
engine
are,
lights
Howard
off.
got new brakes.
Ooh, I spent
That
$200
oil
bucks.
change, I could smell it.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
That
That's
oil
not-
change smells.
Yeah, you're
good.
right. That's a good
Right.
point.
Ooh,
Yep.
I passed an emissions test. My check engine light was off.
Right.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's horrible.
So we try to make it a lot easier. I understand that. If anyone hates spending money on their car, it's me. So that's part of the reason I opened. I hear and I have heard a lot in this industry that mechanics are thieves, mechanics, that's not really the case. It's really not. It's the communication. Either the technician or the manager doesn't know how to communicate to the customer what's wrong with their car. So we do a lot of pictures and videos. We send it all digitally. Check it out that way. It makes it easier. And
Yeah,
then we offer
people
the loaner
trust you.
cars.
Right.
You have to. You have to have trust.
Yeah.
You got to have a good time.
Yeah, you know, you got a big compliment from somebody you don't even know we got. But one of our main sponsors is Schicker Ford of St. Louis, and the
Yeah.
general manager of Schicker Ford of St. Louis is Ken Plackey. He's a great friend of the show, not only a sponsor, but we mentioned
Terrible at hockey.
terrible at hockey. Yeah. Well, hold on a second. He was your coach, wasn't he? So if he's terrible at hockey, he's your coach, then you really suck. No wonder you're playing
Grenade
pickleball.
thrown.
I was gonna say, now you know why I play pickleball.
Now we got a sponsor beef going on. I like it.
Yeah, but he mentioned, we told him that you were coming on as a sponsor, and he was really excited. He said you run a tip-top, honest operation, and you're a good guy.
Well, they do the same down there. Schicker Ford, there's awesome people down there, and I like Ken a lot.
Yeah.
Well, that'll get into the next one is the locations that you have are near a lot of the other locations of our other sponsors.
Yes.
So tell us your locations.
So we have one at South Kings Highway down here next door to Christie Park. Our original location is on Watson Road in Crestwood. Our newest location is in Arnold. It just got hit by the tornado. They're still open, but we got a couple roofs ripped off there
All right.
and some temporary repairs.
Adapt and overcome.
Yep. And then we have a classic car and hot rod shop in Crestwood, which is next door to our original location.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So that classic car and you have a passion for classic cars, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I like them.
And you do shows, and you're involved in a lot of shows. And one of the things that we were talking about is one of your car shows was Cruising Lindbergh, and that's where I grew up in that Lynn Ferry. Then you have 21, and you have the other Lynn Ferry. So you had like a triangle there.
Yep.
And we used to cruise that in high school. And you said that you guys have a car show coming up on that.
We have a car show coming up. So Cruising Lindbergh is separate, but we have done events together the last 3 years. For our anniversary, we do our anniversary party and car show. This year is on the 26th. Cruising Lindbergh Throwback Cruise is on the 19th, so the Saturday. It's the week before.
Might have to go to that.
The last few years, there's literally been thousands of cars.
Maybe we'll hit Crossroads for that one.
People line up down Lindbergh. It is awesome.
Go see LJ.
LJ
at
wants us to do a
Crossroads.
show from this place too.
All
Tell
right.
us about
All right.
the
Maybe
April
that'll be the one.
26th. Jason, tell us about the 10th annual anniversary party and car show.
So our anniversary party and car show, first, all the proceeds go to Dogs for Our Brave, which Dogs for Our Brave trains service animals for veterans, and they pay for everything for the animal for the entire life, collars, anything medical they need, food, bowls, toys, everything. It's a really, really awesome organization.
That's a great cause.
Well, I did a little research on that organization, and it's neat how it was founded. Is there was a gentleman that wanted to donate or find a gift for his wife,
Right.
and he had befriended a Navy SEAL. If I'm not mistaken, had befriended a Navy SEAL, and they played golf together, and they went out together. And he asked the Navy SEAL. He says, I'm trying to think of something to get for my wife. He goes, you ought to get a veteran a dog. So what they did was then they through this Navy SEAL, they gave this injured veteran a dog. They trained it. They did everything, and it made him and his wife feel so good that they started this organization.
Wow.
That's a great organization.
Dogs for Our Brave has blown up. They have a little spot here in the city. Over the last few years, they've been doing fundraisers, and they just bought a pretty good-sized building on Watson Road in Crestwood.
Nice.
We got involved with them because our friends at Twisted Tree Steakhouse are in real good
Cyberg.
with Dogs for Our
Cyberg
Brave.
family, we're all friends with them, buddy.
They're Southside legends.
Exactly. So that's actually where this car show is in the back parking lot of Twisted Tree.
Okay.
Okay.
all the
the
pros-
Viking.
Yeah.
Well known as the Viking back
Exactly.
in the day.
Yeah.
I may have gotten in trouble there.
Yeah, I think we all might have.
I think I got an underage little citation there.
So that's Saturday, April 26th.
Yes, little about the car show too is for people that aren't huge into cars. Sometimes car shows can be a little boring, maybe for the kids. So we try to spice it up a little bit. Twisted Tree serves food.
Yep.
There's going to be a gaming truck there with Xbox, PlayStations. Bomberito does a Power Wheels track. They set up tires in a big track. They let the kids ride Power Wheels. And then there's going to be a mini petting zoo with baby goats. How many car shows you know? That baby
Oh, my God.
Baby goats, dude. I might go just for that.
All of this is free to the community. This is our give back. We're pretty lucky. We've been blessed. So
10
this
years.
Is our,
Yeah.
This is our give back.
Cool.
That's awesome.
No,
So,
I'm sorry. Do
no.
you have a military background at all?
I do not.
Okay. We can cut that out, though. Thanks for your service, though.
Your car service. Thanks for your car.
car service.
But I've met Jason on several occasions through Danny. As Dan said, they've played pickleball for quite some time now. But one of the things that you do have a love for is law enforcement and military.
Absolutely.
And we've talked about that in many conversations in the past. So I just wanted to throw that in there because, like JJ said, you can tell just by talking to you that either A, you served or you just love those that served and on police or military.
100%. Because I wouldn't have the opportunity to do what I do if it wasn't for them. And I know at night, whenever we've had a couple issues at the shop, and when that alarm goes off, I know who's coming.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
That's pretty cool.
Very much so.
Hey,
You wouldn't.
Hey, we won't. Hey, everything you're doing is great. We won't hold the pickleball thing against you. Though.
Right.
Oh,
We'll let that. We'll let that slide.
Do you always let the janitor on the show? Or is this just? Wow.
All right.
good.
We want the people that support.
Touche.
We'd like our supporters to support those that support us. So
Fairway Automotive.
Automotive,
4
baby.
locations. Jason, tell our listeners you guys cover every kind of repair and anything else you want to tell them.
Yeah. No body work. We do everything: brakes, tires, suspension, noises, whatnot.
Engine rebuilds, because I was there
Engine
one
rebuilds.
time. You were rebuilding a Yukon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yukons,
So
yeah.
you will never be perplexed by any repair.
I will.
Kind of a big
But I got the
word
right
for
guy.
you.
Wow.
Sorry about that.
Spell it.
Welcome aboard, Jason.
Thank you guys for having me on. I
Thanks,
very
buddy.
much appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy. Tommy, what do you have for?
that the communities that support law enforcement, you know what?
They're safer places to live.
You're damn right they are.
Peace.
Peace.